Hello ladies and gentlemen, the Game for the Grave here, and welcome back to Age of Wonders Planetfall. Now, I made an executive decision earlier that for time reasons, it would be easier to do the DLCs separately from the main campaign. And what I mean by this is that I record them at the same time and then upload them, interval. So I upload a regular campaign, then a DLC, and that kind of thing. Because if I go through each individual campaign mission and such, and then I go through each individual DLC one, it's probably going to be a while, because there's probably about 10 or so in the main campaign, and then there's 2 for each of these DLCs as well. I believe it is 2. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's another 6, and each planet takes, a couple of hours to do, and obviously they get harder over time, so they start to take longer. The early ones, as you saw, took 60-70 turns or so, and that was in the easiest difficulty. So of course, the later ones that become even harder are going to take even longer, and it's going to get to the point where it's going to take, like nearly 200 turns to do one, and it's going to take hours. So it's going to be like 10 episodes or so per one mission, and that's not going to happen until later. But some of these missions, planets can be quite hard. So for the sake of time and not wanting to let you guys get bored of, spending, 40 minutes per video for like the next year or so watching it, it'd be easier to do it that way. I can't guarantee they'll be uploaded in like intersecting order, so one of one of the other. It might just be 2 or 3 of one, and then 1 or 2 of the other, or whatever. And of course the DLCs, obviously there's less of them and they're shorter, so it'll probably be quicker for them anyway. They are harder, bear in mind, than the campaign missions, but that's probably because the DLCs, of course, most people don't play DLC until they've completed the main campaign, because they take place afterwards. But with these, they're sort of their own individual stories that you don't have to have played the main campaign to understand, which is definitely interesting. So of course we have Revelations, which is where you basically play as a fallen house of the Syndicate, and you also have Keiko in your faction as well, so they're like some friends. Invasion, you play as probably the coolest race, the Shakan, and then the Star Kings, you play as, well, basically you're supposed to be guardians. I'm not entirely sure how the system is supposed to work, but it's like they're a really strong, devout, religious group that devote themselves to their gods or whatever, but they're also hugely technologically advanced, and so as you can see they have giant mech suits and stuff, so it's super interesting. But Invasion is definitely my favourite one, so that's the one we're going to start today. Just so you can get a look at the Shakan. Obviously you can see it's a level 2 difficulty for the first one, but the second one's like a 4 or 5, I believe, and it is incredibly hard. I managed to complete it eventually, but trust me when I say it was not easy. So you should definitely not play this until you've gotten to grips with the game better, because I fear that you'll probably struggle when doing this if you haven't already. Kinetic plus mod thermal grenade. One thing I have noticed, interestingly, is that the male Shakan tend to be shorter than the females one, and I don't know whether that's supposed to mean that the females are better than the males or what, because of course one thing I have seen is that the leader is male, so I don't know quite how the Shakan hierarchy and such works, but it's certainly like interesting. Yeah, those are my favourite ones. Because the thing is like, horns obviously very unique to the Shakan, and they have plenty of cool ones. Like, that one's a pretty cool one, but my favourite one is definitely the curved horns like this. And the hair colour actually just affects like that on the back of their horns there. So you can make it whatever. I think red's probably the best one to go with personally, because it's probably one of the few that actually stands out. Like, blue just doesn't look right. So yeah, and then of course their armor looks really interesting as well. This is what I love about the Shakan. You'll learn more about them as we play through. I'll try not to spoil anything, but I mean, no promises from me. I usually struggle to keep my mouth shut. Helmets. And there's some interesting accessories as well, but I don't like them because they sort of cover up features. I think go with that one, because the rest of them, like, I'm not sure about the twin-bladed one that goes over the tail. I prefer the single-edged one like this. And then skin colour is interesting, because of course, for humans, obviously, their skin colour would technically be their race, but obviously with the skin colour for the Shakan, it affects, like, obviously, like, again, their skin tone, but I don't know whether it's a racial thing or it's like animals where, like, they get a mixture of like different pots. So I actually think black and red looks super cool. That makes it look almost demonic like, which for what the Shakan are seems appropriate. And then obviously the flag. I'll go with that one. And I'm never too sure about the colour, because the red honestly looks a little orange. Black, I think, just looks plain, because it sort of mixes the colour that you can see a bit of, like, green. So I think, like, purple is probably, like, the best colour. Because, again, I think, like, yellow or blue or anything just don't look right on the Shakan. So I always go with, like, the purple colour, because I actually think it blends a lot better. And then, of course, you have the secondary colour, which honestly doesn't matter, just sort of white's probably the best one to go for, because at least it makes it clearer. And now a name. Now I'm gonna try and go through this and try and find one that I can actually pronounce. Drondaka, Erki, Zador, Oden, Gruruka, via Zoranai, Okta, Krug, Shitashala. What is that? That two S's, that is Stashala. Huh. Stashala Harcheka. That seems interesting enough of a name. Probably have a hell of a time pronouncing it though sometimes. But yeah, the Shakan are definitely interesting, so let's actually get started and we can learn a bit about them.
Glory to Chancellor Gore and glory to the Scarlet Scepter. The path of Shakarn legend is paved with the feats of our Domok fighters and their war machines. But not all that is alien needs to be crushed without reason. When our Zarda's agents infiltrate foreign cultures, they can find refinement even amongst the most primitive races. Because such is the legacy of the Shakarn. We learn, we overcome, and we conquer. My scales are craving to return to Shakarn soil, but I must stand strong. When I left for my assignment in Star Union space, I did not know what it meant to wear the same holographic mask for years. Spent every day and hour mimicking these so-called humans and their sickening habits. Deep infiltration is like an endless war of attrition until somebody drops a sonic bomb. The die is cast. Shakarn forces have been mobilized. All secret operatives called back to the moon Solodius 2. There, the humans have set up a critical part of their defensive network. An experimental facility where they induce artificial void storms to deadlock their region of space. It is the last obstacle between our invasion fleet and Star Union territory.
Okay, so we have
Our
interesting
sabotage mission is on
background.
track, and Celodia's 2 on screen. A silent landing on the dark side of the moon will get us close enough to our targets without raising any early alarms. And from its glacial shadows we shall strike.
Yeah, now the thing with the Shakan, as we've just learned there, is that not only are they excellent warriors, they're also infiltrators. So they use their advanced cloaking and holographic technology to infiltrate all parts of society with hundreds, if not thousands, of sleeper agents as such, who, with just one call, will come to the aid of the Shakan no matter where they would be in the universe. When we learn a bit more about our little, blending in assignment, but I'll leave that till later, and for now we need to get down to Solarius 2. So we have to sabotage the ELOP void facility and keep your cover intact. Yeah, that's an important one. You have to complete it without having your cover blown. Because if it is, I don't know whether you fail or whether you just end up going to war. As far as I'm aware, I think you do fail completely, so don't get caught. It's just over half majority water, but there's still plenty of land. But one thing I learned about the Shakan is that they automatically get like water development, so they can build on water and such. But also the Shakan have the ability to walk on water. So long as your commanders are not in a vehicle, they can cross bodies of water much quicker. They don't have to spend one turn getting onto craft, onto the water, and then one turn getting off. They can just walk straight across like it's land. So I think that's an excellent thing about the Shakan, being able to water walk, because it gives them much of an advantage. They can travel across oceans and such much faster, and I think their dropships look pretty cool as well. But yeah, they are so much more advanced than like the other races and such. It doesn't make them invincible, it just gives them an upper hand because the technology they possess is magnificent. Okay, we have touched down with any sight of detection. Good. Now, before we make any further moves, remember, Gudat, our cover is that we are an Amazon colony convoy carrying terraforming equipment. We were forced to land after getting hit by a void storm, so please no shoot first, ask questions later. If the enemy encounters us, okay. You insulted my memory, General. Of course I recall your long and elaborate scheme to keep these humans followed until their last breath is drawn. Nonetheless, I must repeat what I said before, that this is a plan of cowards that can only hold us back for too long. You may have spent the past years acting and thinking like a Zardas, but you are a Gama, Shilchala, Arteka. You are a leader of our people, so by the blood of a Shazora, start leading. Our fleet is waiting on the other side of the spatial rifts. This is not a time to hide in the shadows, this is a time to be bold and claim victory. You accuse me of behaving like a Zardas, and yet it is you who seems to have mingled too much with his Domok fighters, Marshal. Running into enemy lines without reason would be an unnecessary risk. But do not worry. If everything else fails, we can still resort to your method of brute force. While we send out our scouts, we can seize another rare opportunity and explore the residence halls built by the original Star Union infiltrators. According to our records, one of these witnesses of Pasha Khan deeds must be located close to our landing position. So we have to explore all of the rift generators. We need to clear the Renaissance Hall. Yeah, so the rift generators are all here, and yes, I will say now that the enemy has their bases around this, and there is actually a thing where you have to send in your scouting units as close as possible, but there is like a border around it, give or take, that if you cross over, your cover will be compromised severely. I don't know how much it goes up by or whatever, but it will go up a lot, if not completely go and be compromised. But you have to get them close as possible, which is difficult, of course, when you obviously are nowhere near, but because, yeah, see, aquatic development we start with immediately, which gives us a huge bonus. Infantry. Okay. There we go. Bear in mind, I didn't actually want to use the bike, I just wanted to get the thermal grenade and all that. That comes with it, and I can just equip it onto someone else later. So of course we have our Marshal here, Kudastro Attack. He's a pretty cool dude, but he's, you know, the sort of just shoot everything that we see and, you know, don't take any prisoners, which is okay in some circumstances, but it seems a little barbaric and pointless, if nothing else. So we take the Phantom Mountains. That's good production. City of Lunar Echoes. It's good science, definitely. The Spear and Pike, so it's good for electricity, energy, Police's Peaks, more. So not only is it good for food development, honestly, however, this one at least has the Acacia, so that's probably better than all the others. So Biofarm and then Specialist Trading Center, Entern. As you can see, there are only 2 commanders on this world, other than, of course, you know, I hate to interrupt you at such an early hour, General, but my raiders have caught a human spy skulking around our camps. Should we interrogate him or kill him on the spot? No, let go, you dastardly creatures. I won't stop shouting until you've returned me my Sarah. Oh yes, I know that she's here. First you abducted her from Atrurium Beta, and then you took her to this moon to do God knows what terrible things to her. But I've tracked you down and now I demand her back. Ha, this human roars like a thundermaw, but he lacks the teeth to also bite. Do you realize, Wimp, that I could crush your skull with the raw power of my hands? Gudak starts lifting the helpless man up with his right arm, slowly tightening his grasp. Enough, Marshal. We are all aware of your capabilities. As for you, human, this is what will happen. We will wipe all sensor logs you took on Solarius 2. Then you will leave on a long journey to visit some distant relative, which you will also announce to anyone it might concern. You live. Nobody searches for you and disturbs, as we all win, right? No, I will never leave this planet without my Sarah. I cannot lose her, not a second time. It was a miracle she returned from the claws of the Gearco after they laid waste to Atrium Alpha. That's when I knew I could never let anything happen to her again. I offer you a chance to get out of this, you fool. The Sarah you knew is long dead. What came back to you after her death was little more than an illusion. Did you ever wonder how your Sarah could escape the ever-vigilant eyes of the Gearco swarm? Or why she changed so drastically, being reserved to more interest in your work than your marriage? You realize it now. You know it is the truth. I became Sarah Henkins. The wimp has fainted. Good show, General. What shall we do with him now? I guess he won't be any more use to us. Now that we know he had no backups, feeding him seems like a waste of resources where the opposite could be done. So you can either have him processed for food, or I could keep him as a prisoner. Now, you want to keep him as a prisoner. Like, definitely. Trust me on this, okay? Backups or not, we should be concerned with how easily a simple civilian could track us down by himself. There are some questions that need answering. Oh, and one more thing, Marshal. Given the fragile mental state of our guest, I suggest you leave any interrogations to my direct supervision. I know we just have to wait for him to be recovered, which, as far as I'm aware, just takes several turns. You just wait. You don't have to do anything, because there's no possible way to get this to speed up, I don't believe. But it takes a while. He faints for quite a few turns, but anyway. I'll end the video here, mainly just so we've got started and such. And then, of course, you guys can decide whether you want to continue doing this now or leave it later or whatever. But also, let me know what you think of the Shikaran, because personally, they're my favourite race. I just absolutely love the Shikaran. I think they look awesome, and they have a great story as well. Um, and I just think, the characters are interesting, like your character and then the Marshal. And also, there is a thing where as the Marshal dies, you have a sort of grieving moment thing where he says that he'll be fine because he's strong enough. And you say that he's strong, but even he can't beat death. And then he passes away in front of you. So there are some sort of bond, despite how tense it may seem between you and him. You are actually friends, you are close. Which I suppose makes sense because the Shakan seem to be, the sort of family thing. How not everyone's related, of course, but how bonds are important, everyone's close, and you trust each other with your lives, sort of thing. Respect is earned, and respect is something that you should have. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you think of the Shakan, or what race is your favourite if they are not. But yes, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on, and all that jazz. You know the drill, really. I'm sure everybody tells you this, and you get sick of hearing it, but nevertheless, I'll say it anyway, because, what else am I going to say? And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.